All right, looks like we have settled around the 1:34 mark. I'd like to welcome everybody on this January 25th to our first SSIS Coffee Talk for 2022. Before we get started today, I'd like to introduce a few of our panelists that are going to be answering questions and assisting with your needs throughout today's webinar. My name is Eric Kratt, and I'm an SSIS trainer with both the Minnesota Child Welfare Training Academy as well as Child Safety and Permanency. Today's webinar is about tips and tricks in SSIS, as well as a walkthrough of resources that are available to SSIS mentors, both physical and worker, out there in the field in the great state of Minnesota. That's my introduction. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm going to pass it over to Marcia.
Hi, good morning. My name is Marcia Riss. I'm new to DHS. I came from St. Louis County, where I was a SSIS coordinator for the last 8 years and there for about 16 years. So my new role is under the child welfare with the SSIS help desk, working with policy questions and things that they need assistance with and other various SSIS related things. So nice to meet everyone.
We'll go ahead and have Melissa Meagher introduce herself.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to see everybody here. I'm a fiscal SME with the SSIS Business Ops today. I'm glad to have you guys all here, and thanks for having me, Eric.
We also have a new child welfare subject matter expert by the name of Erica. Erica, I'm going to have you introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Erica Jepson. I'm, as Eric said, one of the new child welfare subject matter experts. I'm partnering along with Marcia. I came from Becker County. There I was the foster care licensor, had also a case manager for many years. So welcome, and I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Erica. And Shauna Myers from our lead help desk person, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself. And Heidi, if you want to throw the link to the presentation in the chat, that would be awesome.
Good morning, everybody. This is Shauna Myers, and like Eric said, I'm the lead at the SSIS help desk. I've been with the state for 4 years now, and before that I had worked at Sherburne County for 20 years. So I'm excited to be with you guys today.
Thanks, Shauna. And Heidi, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Heidi Morris, your SSIS Mentor Program Coordinator. We're super excited to have you here with us this morning and hope you enjoy the session.
Hey, Eric, I forgot to mention Molly Kaler, who is my co-part. She is jumping on late today. She had some other priorities that she had to take care of. So she'll be here, but later on. So.
All right. Thanks for letting us know. Yep. And it looks like we have a special guest with us today by the name of Tom Jones. Tom, thanks for joining us. Wanted to know if you wanted to do a quick introduction here before we get started today.
Sure. My name is Tom Jones. I'm the director of the MAD division within MDH or DHS at Minute. Specifically, I am the director in charge of things like min choices, SSIS, licensing, a variety of other things. I did start off my life at Minute as a SSIS developer. I created things like service arrangements, and I created the Seeger report, and I created, I don't know, a whole bunch of things. I was involved in payments. I was involved in chart of accounts, dynamic chart of accounts for each county. I wrote the MARC application for adults in SSIS. So I've been around the SSIS world a long time. And if you have issues or complaints, I actually am that person. So feel free.
Thanks, Tom. I'm glad to have you here with us today. And then last but certainly not least, we have Lisa Litchfield. And then Lisa, I didn't know if you want to do a quick introduction.
Hi, this is Lisa Litchfield. I'm messing up my video. So I'm the change coordinator for the business option, and I work with the pilot agencies, and I also work with enhancement requests. And I'm happy to be here learning all of these things just like you are.
Glad to have you here. Again, Heidi is posting some temporary links to our presentation in the chat. The best way to open those links is to use Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome to access those and download that important information. Tom, I didn't know if you wanted to start out our presentation today by talking about some of the SSIS issues. I don't want to keep you here longer than you need to be. So if you are comfortable in sharing, some of the issues that SSIS has been having for the last few months and some of the recommended solutions, that would be awesome.
Sure. As probably some of you know, there's been a number of times SSIS has gone offline, and not just SSIS, like a lot of DHS systems have gone offline for various reasons. That is compounded by the ongoing lag issue within SSIS. So let me go over some of the things we've done, some of the things we looked at, and some of the outcomes of those things, because I think a lot of you think, maybe we're not responsive. Maybe we're not doing anything. What is the plan out of this mess? Because I do see it as a mess, honestly. 2 years ago, we centralized, or was it 3 years ago? I can't remember. And we took all the databases out of your counties and we moved them to our central Exadata box, which we were told was the gold standard. This is the fastest, best thing you could ever do. This is the golden ticket. And the Horizon people said, it started off as Citrix, and that took a long time to work out the bugs of Citrix. And then we got the bugs worked out in Citrix, and then they said, well, we're getting rid of Citrix, we're going to Horizon, and my heart almost died. It was like, we just figured out all the issues with Citrix, and somebody in Minute Central decided that Citrix is going away, we can't afford it, we're going to Horizon because it's cheaper. And I'm like, but so we then moved you all to Horizon, and we were told, this is as much as we can do. We've given you all the things you could possibly need. Your system will run fine. And that turned out not to be true. Even 2 or 3 years ago, there were times where the system would lag due to user use. And that only compounded more with the COVID world that we live in. The Horizon system was built with about 3,200 concurrent users across the state in mind. And since COVID, you know what we have now? Closer to 5,000 concurrent users. So we asked, well, can you increase the number of servers we have? We have 110 Horizon servers running that we monitor. We have a dashboard that monitors memory, CPU usage. And when those numbers shoot up, when the CPU usage shoot up, your laggingness happens. So I've been told over and over again for the last 2 years, no, we can't add anything more to that. There's nothing we can do. We've given you everything we can give you. And their answer has been for the last 2 years is we have a new Horizon server farm built on newer hardware, newer technology that we can give you anything you want. So I have been waiting patiently for that to become available for our use. And I'm going to come back to that because I want to talk about some other things we did as well. Earlier this year, we transferred from our old Exadata X5 box to the new Exadata X8 box. That sounds good. That's like 3 X's better than what we had. That turned out to be a disaster. So that was the first big 8-hour outage a few months ago, December 6th, I believe. Almost December 7th for those history people. And they didn't bring up the listeners correctly, and then it wobbled and fell down. So we've had ongoing issues with the X8 box running the version of Oracle that SSIS is on. So though I was given all sorts of assurances that this would be seamless and better and work better in every way, that turned out not to be true. So we had configured the X5 with all sorts of added things to make it run smoothly. Some of those things didn't get added. It's like SQL plans, for example, or little refinements in how things run in the background. So some of that got missed and had to be added back in, and that improved performance on some things like statewide access. If you remember, there was a problem with statewide access, and adding more of some of those behind the scenes things in the Oracle database fixed that. But we're running SSIS right now in production on 12C. We need to move it up to 19C. So that's coming soon in the next couple of months. We're going to upgrade the Oracle version from what it is now to a better version that's more stable and has no issues. So, well, I'm told it has no issues. I don't know. So that's one thing that we're doing, and that's a big piece of work that we're working on behind the scenes. So that isn't something that is quick and easy. That is really a hard process, and we're doing our due diligence to figure out how to upgrade Oracle for everybody. I will tell you that development has already been upgraded. We're running on 19C, so if you have concerns that it's not being tested, our QA environments and our development environments are already on 19C, and it's working fine for us. So I'm hopeful that we can move the rest of our environments up, which includes production, to 19C, and that would alleviate some of the issues we have with Oracle. One of the other things that happened was access denial happened across the state of Minnesota, specifically in Minute. No one could log in. Now, counties, you have your own systems, but we as Minute, we weren't allowed to even log into our systems to access anything. So our authentications across the state failed. So social workers couldn't log into Horizon, so they couldn't get at SSIS. They couldn't log into a whole bunch of systems. And that was due to I can't make this up. So somebody installed something called StealthyBit, which watches what workers do at the state behind the scenes. And then somebody applied a patch to Microsoft, and they didn't play well together. And that caused all access to be denied across Minute and DHS and every other agency across the state. So if you had luckily logged in the morning, your connection was golden and you could keep working. Anybody else after 9 o'clock or whatever the time was, they couldn't. And if you let your computer go idle, you weren't allowed back in. So people were dropping off. Now, other agencies, not DHS, could log into their personal devices and access email, and so communication could flow from other agencies. Guess what DHS's policy is? Anybody want to know? You cannot use personal devices. So that pretty much cut out most of Minute at DHS, and most of DHS couldn't communicate with anybody. So if all of you are wondering why wasn't there more communication, I am telling you it was practically impossible for us to talk to each other, and it was practically impossible for us to talk to you, just so you know. So that was the 2-day outage, had nothing to do with SSIS, had everything to do with Minute Enterprise and security concerns. So let's go back to the lagginess issue now. We have looked at Oracle, we have looked at the application, we have looked at the network, we have done sniffers on the network to track each hop as it hops through the network to find out where the lagginess is. And we came to the conclusion that it's back to the Horizon client servers. That is where the issue is. Oh, there is another issue too. As things come into DHS, they go through another security thing that checks every packet for 14,000 rules. And there's 2 servers that do that. One server was really well put together and had lots of memory and lots of CPUs. And that thing, everything ran through super fast. The other one was super minimal, like one CPU, minimal memory. So this one would handle most of the load, but if anything went through this other node, it was 70 times slower. 70 times slower. So last Tuesday, so in our process of trying to figure out what was slow, we discovered this thing at Minute Central. They had an imbalance in their setup of their coming in, and this is anything coming in to the state system would go through these two nodes, not SSIS specifically, but everything. This was discovered by Financial Operations Division when they try and send pictures of checks into the system to be processed, to be put into the bank. That became super slow. And we were trying to troubleshoot that, and we found this. So that is being worked on, but that could cause slowness across everything across the state that you're working on when you come into the state network, including SSIS. So that has been discovered and it's been being worked on, just so you know. So that could have some of the general slowness issues, but let's talk about the lagging, because that's really the big issue. So our Horizon servers, though they have lots of memory and we have 110 of them, it's not enough. So we are standing up. The new Horizon servers are finally here. They're finally configured and they're finally working. We are testing them in a couple of counties. Washington County has a couple of workers using them. Washington County has a lot of workers working on them. So we are gradually adding more workers to find out where the system will fail. So what we want to know is, what is the point that each server can handle so that we can properly configure this for everyone. So that's what we're doing now. There's like 120 Scott workers on this server. We're moving internal DHS licensing people onto that server. And we're probably going to move the rest of the county, Scott County, onto those servers by the end of the month. The advantage of those servers is we can add as many as we want. There isn't an upper limit on hardware. So if 110 isn't enough, we can go to 150. And the lagginess should go away at that point. So we are testing it out with these counties that are helping us. And if anybody's here from those counties, thank you. It's great to have somebody to help us with this. And we meet every week with Scott County and talk it over and see how things are going. What we're trying to discover, is there any printing issues? Is there any connection issues? Is there any, we had all those issues with Horizon when we first started on Horizon. Before I can turn you all loose onto the new servers that don't have the lagginess problem, we need to make sure that they work. And so this trial period that we're going through right now is super valuable for us. One, to find out the capacity for each server, and then to iron out any of the bugs that we might have. So that's actually what we're doing. So I know it's painful, and I know everybody wants to jump to the thing that doesn't have the thing that's bugging me, the lagginess. I know that. I'm just asking you to be a little more patient. We are making progress. If Scott County gets up and running by the end of the month, we'll probably let it run for a couple of weeks. And then we're going to start transitioning counties into that. Not everybody all at once, because it does take some work in the county to push out a new Horizon client. I don't know if you're aware of that. And the two are available, right? So as you move to the new, if you have an issue, you can always go back to the old. We're not taking that away. So, and gradually what that will do is lessen the load on the old and increase the load on the new. And that should be a general improvement for everybody. So pretty soon the old won't be so laggy, because instead of 5,000 users, there'll only be 3,000 concurrent users as we move. But we will eventually shut the old down and move all into the new. Is that, I don't know, does anybody have any other questions about what's going on? I'll field whatever you want to ask me about if you'd like.
There are a couple questions I didn't go over housekeeping at the beginning. We prefer that questions get asked in the Q&A, but some have popped up in the chat here. Mary asks, what version of Horizon should we be using? And the last I checked from the help desk, they recommend 5.5.2. Is that accurate, Tom?
It might be different between old and new. I'd have to check with Guy Glorvis on that. So
Okay.
I don't know what the current, where it sits right now. I'd have to check. But I know for Washington County and Scott County, they had to push out a new Horizon client in order to get up on the new version. So the new Horizon client works with both, but the old one only works with the old, if that makes sense.
Okay. And then Deb asks, when you move people to new servers, does it free up the other servers? How long is the trial period?
Well, the trial period has been going since the end of December. So as we move people off of the old onto the new, that will lessen the load on the old, right? But really, there are a couple counties that have, 1,000 concurrent users, like Hennepin, I don't know, So they're the big hitters. If we can move them over to the new servers, that would alleviate a lot of the issues. So I don't know what our plan is right now to which counties will move. There'll probably be a call to go out to counties to say which county's IT staff can handle this now, right? As we make our list, similar to centralization, we're going to make a list and move through the list in a thought process. Last time we did small to big. I'm not sure that makes sense at this point. We might want to do bigger to smaller, but that's to be determined. We're going to be talking about that soon. So if I'll probably be reaching out to county administrators and county IT folks to find out when they would like to do this work. So we'll see who can work with us. This really will shape who goes first. So just be aware of that. Any other questions?
Do you feel like this will clear up the printing issues that a lot of the counties have been having with these new servers, or is that what you're testing right now?
Well, I think there have been some printing issues. So I can't remember how it went. So there are ways to print. I do think sometimes Horizon loses the list of installed printers. And we had I think we built a process that goes and refreshes that every 5 minutes. I think that was our answer to the last Horizon issue. I don't know if the new Horizon client has fixed that issue or not, but that's one of the things we're looking at. I do know that Scott County had issues writing documents to a shared directory because once it got into their firewall, it slowed way down. I don't know that I can fix that. So, so something about coming from Horizon to their shared firewall caused it to slow right down. If they went to their own desktop, it was super fast, but going to their shared file was super slow. I don't have an answer for that. So some of the things that are going to happen in the counties, I'm not going to have an answer for. So.
And then Mary asks, is there any communication from the state when there is a new version of Horizon, and how do counties know when there is a new version that should be installed? And I don't know if that's for you to field, Tom, or maybe Shauna or Cynthia, do you want to address that question? Or maybe that's something we need to think about.
As for when a new version should be installed, that's something I would need to check into. There is some issues, and I know you're going to be talking about this eventually, Eric, that Horizon actually has very high versions that we recommend not using, and and you were right, the 5.5.2 is what we've been telling people at the help desk that we recommend. We've had a lot of printing problems and other weird issues when people have used like the brand new Horizon, which I think you're going to talk about, Eric, so I won't go into too far. But as for when to update, I'm going to have to get more information about that. But if you do email the help desk, we will tell you the recommendation that we are currently been given by our technical staff.
And then Myra asks, when there are issues, or maybe this is more of a statement, when there are issues with SSIS statewide, communication is sent out about an hour after issues have been reported. Is there a way to send out communication sooner? I think we're always kind of trying to figure out the best way, Myra, to get communication out to our users. We often don't know that there is, a massive issue until about an hour later, when we start to get report after report from agency after agency. So I think that's kind of an ongoing concern that we are trying to address on our ends and in the SSIS business operations unit. And I don't know if anyone else has anything to add on the panel. All really good comments and questions. And we most definitely appreciate your patience. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
I would add that when the lagginess happens, it often happens across a part of the systems. We have a dashboard that does monitor the server usage, but it's very likely that it could be a third of the counties or a third of the people logged on are having lagging issues and other people are not. It's very likely. So it's just a question of, and that tends to happen at the end of the day when everybody's on, at 9 o'clock when everybody logs on. And people tend to just keep SSIS open, so they're keeping connections and using resources all day, even when they're not using the application. So that's, we're finding that more and more people are using or keeping the application open, and that's taxing the resources as well, just so you know. But just because you have lagginess, you could log off and try and log on and get a better server. That is an option you could try. More questions?
Deb writes in and says, I appreciate your candor and details. So thanks, Deb, for that positive. And then Mary, lag time, we mostly see lag time in chronology since some active work groups have 20+ years of data. Is there a way to move older data to a folder?
Chronology summary report. I'm going to tell you the chronology summary report is never going to be fast. If I had my way, I would put that on a background process. So you would say, I want chronology summary report for this work group, and then you would get notified when it was done, and you wouldn't wait for it. That would be my answer to that report. There is no way to make that report super fast. It is grabbing data from, I don't know, like 12 different places, sorting it in a certain way and putting it in, and it does a lot of things. I think it was running at 8 minutes a few years back. Then it was running at, I think, 2 minutes at one point for larger, and the larger the work group, the longer it's going to take. And it is a lot of data that's processing through, so that will affect the systems. So there are only a couple of reports that are like that. Chronology summary is one of those reports. And I would say if you're going to run chronology summary on a work group with 20 years of data, I don't know. Let me ask you, would that be a good idea? Could we could we have it put off in the background and run in the background and let you know when it's done, as opposed to sitting there and waiting for it? Would that be a better solution than just asking?
She followed up saying not talking about the summary report, just viewing contacts, case notes, and creating new documents or even copying documents.
So the nodes are slow because of all the content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's a little more into the architecture because there's so much in there. And as you build the tree, it's building each one of those nodes. And each one of those nodes has a bunch of stuff, so it takes time.
Probably something to mull over with an enhancement request in Lisa's area, huh?
Yeah, I'm wondering if there could be like a brief, like, don't build the whole tree, just give us a brief on this work group. And then you would have to physically say, I want this for it to go off and grab that data. There may be something like that we could do for these big work groups. It'd be something to think about.
Okay. And then it looks like an enhancement request has already been sent in, so maybe that just puts it back on our radar to take a look at. But there have been a couple follow-ups to your original question, Tom. They do agree with you. They feel like that would be good to have the summary report kind of run in the background. And that would be helpful.
Okay.
And I appreciate, everybody's comments in the chat as well. That kind of puts things on our radar. And they do kind of field this information at the help desk as well, if these issues are being reported to the help desk. Lisa asks, what is the best way to log out of SSIS when SSIS is lagging? I think we're going to cover that a little bit today in our presentation, so stay tuned for that, Lisa.
There you go.
All right, so some more questions are coming in. We'll take a couple more here, and then if you have more questions, feel free to ask them, and then maybe we'll put them in a Q&A after our webinar today, because we do have some more stuff to get into this morning. But Macy asks, in order for us to have our SSIS updated, our IT department needs to approve of the software update. Should I be encouraging our team to check their version and get that updated?
If you want to install the new Horizon client and your IT staff wants to pursue that, they should reach out to us. We have a little document that we have that explains how to do that. We have our technical staff help your technical staff to make sure the right version gets installed. I know that Horizon is being updated all the time. My fear is that we would upgrade you, and then a month by the time your county is ready to go onto the new Horizon servers, they might have changed something. That's my only fear there, right? To make your county workers do that twice would be bad. But if you want to encourage that, we could start the process. We haven't. We're still focused on Washington and Scott County and working out the issues. We are going to start looking at what's the next steps to broaden that. So lessons learned from those two counties will help us do whatever we need to do in other counties. If you are considering that your county wants to go as soon as they can, I would reach out to, who would they reach out to, Cynthia? I would hate to tell you my technical staff because I don't want them to be bombarded with 100
No,
emails.
they should reach out to the help desk and we'll coordinate that. And most likely that will be Shauna. And we'll coordinate with folks, any of the technical people as needed.
Okay. Anything else? I am missing a super important management meeting. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
We appreciate your candor and we appreciate you being here to address the issues that SSIS has been facing over the last couple of months. So thank you so much for your time.
Sure, and I'd be happy to come back anytime. Okay, Eric?
All right, we'll extend that open invitation then.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day. We're going to go ahead and transition into the rest of our presentation. Maybe let's take a couple minute break to digest our thoughts, and we'll come back to this presentation at 9:40. So if you need to refill your coffee, if you need to gather your thoughts, if there's other things that you wish to throw into the chat for us to take a look at, feel free to do that now, and we'll start our presentation promptly at 9:40. And I'm going to ask that Heidi put the link to our presentation in the chat just one more time. Thanks. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much again for being here with us today for our SSIS tips and tricks webinar. Hopefully the information that we present to you today will help with some of the issues that you're facing using both Horizon and SSIS. But before we get started with the actual presentation, I just wanted to remind everyone of a couple of resources that are available not only to mentors, but also to our physical and worker staff out there. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to navigate to our SSIS resource page. And if Heidi can once again throw the link to our resource page into the chat. I'm sure you're all familiar with this page. And I know it's a bit of a dinosaur and needs to be reorganized. And we are definitely working on that as we speak. Now that we have our child welfare SMEs coupled with our physical subject matter experts, I think we're going to be taking a look at this page and reorganizing it in a way that is more helpful to all of you at the county and tribal level. What I do want to do is just kind of walk through this page really quick before we get into the presentation, just to show you a couple of the available resources. So we have the SSIS mentor program up here, and this is where you're going to find information about the worker mentor program as well as the physical mentor program, and then that newly created SSIS mentor manual. So if the SSIS update that went out kind of went under your radar and you didn't see the announcement of this SSIS mentor manual, this has been updated and is available for your consumption. You simply just click on the link and it will open that SSIS mentor manual for you. Lots of really good juicy bits of information in here, all the way from SSIS admin to just SSIS general navigation. And then I also want to draw your attention to the recommended workstation specs. So this is more IT related, but SSIS has recommended workstation minimum standards, such as running Windows 10 Professional. I know that's kind of outside of the span of control of a lot of SSIS mentors, but maybe this can be shared with your IT department just so that you're running SSIS as optimally as possible. So once again, that's going to be under that recommended workstation specs. I want to draw your attention real quick over here to the SSIS training section. A lot of our training schedules have been updated for the first half of 2022. We have launched an SSIS CP Basics course, which is a 3-day course or a 1-day course, depending on what you would like to partake in. We cover the basics of intake, assessment, and case management over those 3 days. You can take the series, or if your span or your scope is intake only, maybe you want to just take the intake training, etc. Then we have our adult protection training. We have 3 more trainings through the first part of 2022 here. So get that information out to your APS staff so that they're able to enroll in trainings. We cover a lot of new worker basics in adult protection training, but we also cover some higher level policy related information. So it's good for especially mentors. If you're a new mentor and you want to learn a little bit more about the APS world, you know, these basics courses are also designed to help you learn as well. And then we also have our pilot and release training. So I'm just going to click on that really quick. You'll always see information related to the latest version up at the top of the grid. The last version that we released is 21.4, but in about a month, we're going to be releasing 22.1. So the information related to that should show up there, like I said, within a month. And then we also have our physical new worker training. So I've resurrected an old training that a physical trainer used to host back in the day, but I've chunked it out into 3 separate trainings. So anybody who works in the physical arena, if you want to navigate to this page and kind of get a bird's eye view of the objectives for each one of those courses. I do notice a high demand for those courses. So I need to go back to the table and see if I should be scheduling additional courses. No promises, but I'll definitely try to look at the demand for those courses in the physical new worker realm and see what we can do. And then I also want to make note of these new physical online trainings. We are posting the physical e-learnings outside of TrainLink so that individual workers can come in and use the SSIS physical online training modules, not having to register for them. They can just click on a link and just take each one of these trainings. And we have the first 4 modules of 10 or 9, correct me if I'm wrong, Heidi, released, all the way from a general overview and navigation all the way down to service agreements. So those are the first 4, and we will be launching some more of those this year. So we're looking forward to that. So once again, this resource page again has a lot of information for mentors as well as workers out there at the counties and tribes. So we wanted to gather today to talk a little bit about some tips and tricks that we find could be beneficial to users at the county and tribal level when they come into contact with slowness or system generated errors, etc. And a lot of these are high flyers that we've picked out from conversations with the SSIS help desk. And we will get to your questions toward the end of the presentation here. So again, Heidi has thrown in the chat a link to this presentation if you wish to download it and keep it for your records. We'll post it on the SSIS resource page after today's webinar. So issue 1, we get a lot of questions about display, and this first slide is going over, I'm not sure how well you can see that, it's kind of small, but the first thing that we recommend users do is to review Horizon to check out the allow display scaling and make sure that that box that says allow display scaling is showing up in the settings here. So one second. So when you click on this gear icon in Horizon in the middle, you should get a menu, a list of menu options. And down here at the bottom is the applications. There is a checkbox that says allow display scaling. If that is unchecked on your end, you want to check it and you want to select OK. And then you want to log off Horizon and then log back in. Does any of our panelists have anything to add to that or any context to add? All right. Another question we get is about display and resolution, or scale and layout, I should say, in resolution. So here's some tips that we have for that. You want to use 100% for your text size, apps, and other items. So when you right click on your desktop, you can select display in the menu that appears, and you should see something similar to what you see on this slide. So here's that 100% recommended. That's going to get you the optimal scale and layout. However, if you need icons and text a little larger, you can play around with your display resolution. Now, this is the recommended display resolution that I see on my particular machine, which might be different from yours. But the SSIS help desk has found in most cases that a screen resolution of 1600 by 900 makes the screen bigger and plays nice with SSIS. Although users are encouraged to use the recommended settings as shown in this screenshot. And then just a reminder, if you're using multiple displays, you're going to have to do this for each of your displays. So when you do it on your laptop or whatever your main screen looks like, you'll want to go to that other screen that you're using. And I'm pointing as if you can see my other screen, but you'll want to change the settings on that as well. And then if you change the scale, you'll want to log off of your computer and log back on for that scale to set in. Any additional comments from our panelists are welcome.
Just add, I think it actually says when you do the scale and layout change, it actually recommends that you do a restart. So you'll see on your other things, like on your desktop, it'll look like, hey, things have went into effect. But in SSIS, things won't be fixed. That those display issues that you were encountering won't be fixed until you actually do the computer restart. You don't have to do a computer restart for the resolution changes.
Okay, thanks, Marcia.
Yeah, Erica, Mara has a question. Is there a way for SSIS to rescale without settings needed to be manually checked? Seems when that box is checked, the scaling is still not correct, and this only affects SSIS and no other program.
It's a good question. Marcia, is that when they would go to their desktop and then play around with the display settings there? I think that would be the recommendation if the box isn't working in Horizon.
I would agree.
I'll look into that a little further as well. So thanks for that question. So let's talk a little bit more about some Horizon issues that we have found and that are high flyers here at the SSIS Help Desk. So this is about that Horizon issue, or the version. The Horizon version being used can be found by clicking the question mark with a circle around it located at the top right of the screen. So you'll see in this screenshot here. It is recommended that agencies uninstall and reinstall Horizon if running a version higher than, and the screen it says 5.5.x, but DHS recommends that we use 5.5.2 at this time. That's what we're using to test SSIS. That's the gold standard right now. And then just kind of a bullet point at the end here. Maybe we should probably work on our communication about when to upgrade to a different version of Horizon. So I'm sure there will be conversations happening behind the scenes here. But sometimes you'll be prompted when you log into Horizon to update to the latest and greatest version. I would definitely recommend to workers out there to postpone upgrading until notified by DHS or your IT department. And then we've had some issues with properly closing out of SSIS. And I know that this seems a little elementary to a lot of our experienced workers out there, but maybe there's a handful of workers that are not closing out of SSIS properly, and it's causing some slowness when they go to log back in. So this slide is just reminding people to first select the Windows option and then close all. That way you're closing all of the windows that you have open. And I'm sure workers with large amounts of caseloads are clicking in and out of windows and adding window after window after window. So the best practice would be to click that window option in your Windows menu toolbar and close all. Then navigate over to the log off key. And then click File and Exit. And then disconnect from Horizon entirely. By selecting the plug icon, which is this third screenshot down here. And that will disconnect you from, the server. So you're logging off of SSIS and you're also logging off the server, you're refreshing. So hopefully the next time you log back in, it'll be a little quicker. And then let's talk about stream read errors. I noticed Marcia turned her camera on. She's a little bit of an expert when it comes to stream read errors, or has some experience with that. So if stream read errors display, someone in the agency should or will need to run the SSIS profile utility production tool. Just a little note here, if workers ignore stream read errors, they will generally keep generating in SSIS. So if you click out of them, sometimes you'll see other stream errors populate the screen, or other system oddities like warnings and things like that. So ignoring the stream read error will lead to greater complications and further confusion by the system the more you ignore them. So running this profile utility tool is designed to clear your user settings and empty your cache. And this seems to resolve about 99% of the time. And then once the utility tool has run, you're going to log off of SSIS or force it to close if needed, and exit completely from Horizon, and wait about a minute to log back in and let the system refresh. And then when you log back in, a lot of times you'll have to do the single sign-on will lose its memory, or whatever the technical term is for that. And also the database will change to this, what's written on this screenshot. So SSIS _ data. And a lot of people will miss that. So they'll use their user ID and their password, and then they'll go to log back in, and then they'll get this Aura error. And it's Aura 12154. Could not resolve the connect identifier specified. And that's just because the database is not pointing to the correct data, or the database field is not pointing to the correct database. So you'll want to ensure that it's pointing to your database, okay? So that you don't get this logon or an error. And then in addition to identifying your database, to prevent having to log on twice, you'll want to make sure that you set your default for that single sign-on again, so that when you log into Horizon, you should automatically then log into your SSIS database. Marcia, did you have anything to add?
No, I think the only thing I would add is oftentimes I would find workers would have already clicked on like to ignore the stream read errors. And so then they get all these errors that don't actually say stream read error in the pop-up. If you're getting a bunch of different errors, like, you know, that just aren't really explainable, they don't make sense. Oftentimes it was just because they bypassed that stream read error. So like Eric said, they snowball. They just keep getting worse and worse until eventually you can't do anything. So it really just takes like a minute and a half to use that profile utility tool and, you know, wait that minute. So I would say if you're seeing those things, give that a try. It usually did fix the issues that we encountered.
Thanks, Marcia. And sometimes the stream read errors are not corrected by using the profile utility tool. So then the next step would be to manually clear your user settings and empty your data cache. And the way that you do that is you navigate to the file option in your Windows menu toolbar, select utilities, and clear user settings and empty the data cache. So what the profile utility tool was designed to do was to run a script to do that for you, but sometimes that doesn't work, so you have to manually do it. I'm just kind of reiterating that if that didn't make sense. Another thing that we have noticed is individuals are, wanting to bypass Horizon altogether and creating a shortcut on their desktop of the SSIS application. And this slide is just reminding individuals to please not create shortcuts, because when you're logging out of the system, you're not logging off of the server correctly. So when you go to log back onto SSIS, it could be creating unnecessary slowness for you. So if you're right-clicking on the app in Horizon and creating a shortcut, we want you to stop doing that. And we want you to log into Horizon, or we want you to log into SSIS from Horizon, and then back a couple slides when you're logging off, log off with those directions. That way you're allowing everything to disconnect properly, and you're preventing SSIS from overthinking. So then we have a lot of questions about mapping drives, and these slides just kind of go over how to do that, to map drives properly in Horizon so that you can save documents to personal drives or to a designated drive that your agency designates for you to save work to. So you're going to log into the Horizon client. You're going to select that gear icon again up in the top bar. And then what you're going to do is you're going to navigate to drive sharing. The previous screen talked about, has this little note at the bottom. If when you first log in and you see previously mapped drives show up, that's referring to previously mapped drives in this window here of your drive sharing. You'll want to remove those, and then if they're not working properly, I should say, if they're not working properly or they're not mapping correctly, you'll want to remove them and then add them back in using the directions on this slide. So you'll select add, and Horizon is going to look at the drives that you have on your personal or on your agency designated computer, and you're going to add the designated drives that you want to save information to or map information to. And then there's just a note on this slide that your drives will not look like the ones on this image. They'll look a little different. Once you identify, you'll want to click on them in the window and select add. And then when you're exiting out, you'll select apply, or okay.
I just wanted to add there,
Yeah.
Eric, I don't know if I misunderstood Tom, but Tom kind of made a comment about that it's, he sees it being faster if you map to your desktop. And I've had problems with that, and I can't use my C drive at all. I have to use my network drive, otherwise I can't save anything. So I don't know if that is just something based on each person. I'll have to check into that a little bit more, because that's what we've always told everybody, is that if you map to your network drive, normally you don't have as many problems, but I will check into that.
Okay. You know, I've had that experience myself, and I didn't know if that was a stateside issue. It would not let me use my personal drive on the computer. It would only allow me to map to the state designated H drive. So if you guys are having issues with mapping, always, you know, alert the help desk. The more we know about a situation, the more we can address it. And then completion of mapping drives after the drives are mapped and applied, using the plug icon at the top left of the Horizon window. Unplug or disconnect from Horizon. Again, this is like a reset for Horizon and that server. And once the screen shows that you have logged out of the sessions, wait 1 minute and then log into the Horizon client again with your credentials. Another tip we offer people is to back up your settings. Feel free to offer any insight regarding this presentation as we move through it. This is just a reminder to back up your user settings. You're going to choose File in the Windows menu toolbar, Utilities again, and then select the backup user settings. You can select backup user grid settings. And then if you have spelling or autocorrect options loaded in SSIS, there's a way to back up the user spelling settings when applicable. These settings typically include things like toolbar settings, window size, splitter bar position, and defaults to prior chosen values. What's going to happen when you back up your user settings is it's going to save a zip file to a designated mapped drive in SSIS. For you to choose that in the future, choose that zip file to restore your user settings back into SSIS should they be lost in the event of a release. Sometimes pilot and release has an effect on your user settings and clears them out. So that's when you would come in and restore your user settings from that zip file that you've saved on your own drive. And then this final slide here regarding backing up and restoring your user settings just goes over where the restore user settings, grid settings, and spelling settings options are found in SSIS. Again, it's found under that utilities option under the file menu, and they're circled in this screenshot for you. Check the time here, just see what time we got. All right. This next slide has a little video on autocorrect and spelling options. The information in this video that I will share with you momentarily. I created this video for kind of an aside for adult protection training. So a lot of the information is related to, or some of the information is related to adult protection. But this is a function in SSIS that all workers can set up for themselves when they have to fill out documents or some of the text boxes in SSIS. And so without further ado, I'm just going to play this for you. It runs about 7 minutes, and then we'll get back to our final slides. And if you can't hear the presentation, maybe one of the panelists can speak up and let me know. This interactive video is linked on the PowerPoint presentation that Heidi threw into the chat. Hello and welcome to this brief tutorial on autocorrect options and spelling options in the Social Service Information System, otherwise known as SSIS. Autocorrect options may be customized by SSIS users. Changes made to these features are saved until changed again. Autocorrect changes made from the File menu location currently apply only to text boxes in all service plans and on SSIS screens, not to documents contained within Chronology. Autocorrect options allow automatic changes to text such as capitalization. It also provides options for replacing text as you type. Choose to use or not to use any autocorrect options as per your personal preferences. To select autocorrect options or to edit autocorrect options, please travel up to your File option in your Windows menu toolbar and select autocorrect options from the drop-down. The first area to note on the autocorrect options text box is the capitalized section. Notice how the text boxes or the check boxes next to the text are automatically checked for correct 2 initial capitals, capitalize the first letter of a sentence, and correct accidental usage of caps lock key. You can also choose to disable the caps lock key, although that is not recommended. You can put exceptions to any of these rules by selecting the exceptions button. Another feature to save workers time when writing service plans or entering information in text boxes in SSIS is to use the replace text as you type. So as you can see already, we have 3 items listed for replace and with. So for CM, we will replace with case manager, HV, home visit, MDT, multidisciplinary team. Other things that you may wish to put in here as well, so that you don't have to spell it out every time, is AP for alleged perpetrator. Once you've entered the replace and with fields, you can select add, and that will add to your list. Another option that you can select is VA for vulnerable adult. So we'll put VA in the replace field and vulnerable adult in the with field. And again, we can add that information. A couple of other areas on the autocorrect options text box is the automatically used suggestions from the spelling checker. A special note, by clicking the automatically used suggestions from the spelling checker enables autocorrect to automatically change text as you type. Leave this checkbox blank if you do not want SSIS to automatically insert suggestions from spell check. For example, if you type the word McDonald's, SSIS may automatically change that to McKenna. Another box to leave open as recommended, or check if you'd like, is to disable the automatic spell check. So you will not get warnings or flags from SSIS with red underlined text for misspelled words. Just to show you, we want to save any information that we've put in here. So we'll do that by clicking the OK button. You can also come back in here at a later time and highlight a word, and when you highlight the replace and with text, you can delete it from your list if it's no longer useful to you. But just to give you an example of how all of this works, I'm going to select OK. And then here is a text box in SSIS where we can use some of that replace with text. So if I type VA and then hit my space bar, the word vulnerable adult spells out in all capital letters. Now the reason it's spelling out in all capital letters is because I put a capital V and capital A. If you don't want that to be capitalized, you can simply just put lowercase VA and your space bar, and it will appear as a capital V and a capital A. Again, we have other things like MDT for multidisciplinary team. We had HV for home visit. So this could be or lead to time savers if you use repetitive words in your case notes or in your text boxes or service plans. All right, you guys get the gist. And there is about 5 more minutes to that video that goes over the dictionary options. You can put words that SSIS identifies as misspelled into your dictionary, so it won't show up with that red underlined help text. So there is about 5 minutes, like I said, left in that video that shows you how to do that. I want to be cognizant of your time and our time. And there's a few more slides that we need to get to before the end of our presentation. So lots of issues with printers, and I'm not sure this is going to solve all of the printer problems across the state of Minnesota, but we did want to remind individuals that there is a refresh printer list option in file utilities in SSIS. So if you're not seeing the printers that you've mapped to SSIS come up when you go to print something, sometimes the refresh printer list will enable you to reconnect to your designated printers. And Marcia, I don't know if you had anything to add to that or anyone else on the panel. Okay, she's shaking her head no. Passwords. Passwords are kind of fun to set up in SSIS since they changed the password rules. Just wanted to put a screenshot together of the requirements for passwords in SSIS. But they've added another safeguard into Active Directory that if your password looks too easy to crack, you're going to get what we call a server through an exception. And basically, the server through an exception is SSIS or Microsoft's way of saying that it doesn't like your password. And I don't mean to laugh about it because I know it's a point of frustration, but I just laugh when I'm nervous, so I apologize about that. But when you set up a password, for example, say you want to set up baseball as your password and you use the @ symbol for the A, SSIS is going to say, well, that looks like a word. So we're going to throw an exception and we're not going to accept that. And then you're going to have to go back to the drawing board and have your password reset and then try to choose a different one. So I guess the piece of advice or the tip that I have for you is not to create words. Use kind of a word, uppercase, lowercase letter with a number and one of those special characters that doesn't look like it would be easy to crack. And you won't get thrown any exceptions, hopefully, moving forward. So, and then, oh yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, Eric, there too. This is something I didn't even know that I can't remember where it got brought up as, but the server through an exception, I think you kind of said a little bit that it is a Microsoft error and SSIS has no availability to change the error. It shows up in SSIS, but there's nothing that our programmers can do to change the wording or give us anything else that can give a better explanation. And there's a few of those kind of errors that are in SSIS, which I found to be really interesting that I didn't know about.
Yeah. I saw another error pop up recently on our end that didn't say that the server threw an exception, but it said something about your password cannot be the same and it wasn't the same at all. So I don't know, you're going to have to be really creative with your passwords and pass the word on to your coworkers, you know, that's the way SSIS is right now in terms of setting up your password. And an exception is basically saying that, or the server throwing an exception is basically SSIS's way of saying that it doesn't accept your password. Don't be hurt. Don't take it personal. Go ahead, Marcia.
I was just gonna also make sure, because I know lots of workers that I used to work with would always overlook. There are several special characters that are not included on that list that people, try to use. And it's like one of the easiest things to just pass over is only the ones on that special character list. Otherwise, sometimes what I would find is it would go through initially, but then the next time they went to log in, it wouldn't work. So try to stick to those specified special characters just to avoid more issues.
Thanks. Appreciate that. And some SSIS admin issues that we have found to be a little problematic as we shift from one year to the next. And we clear out, former users of the system. So we just wanted to remind individuals of how to remove or inactivate a user's Active Directory credentials. So this slide was taken from one of our job aids or tutorials under SSIS admin under worker documentation, just reminding individuals of the steps to inactivate somebody or remove them from the Active Directory so they can no longer log into SSIS. Number 6, there are messages sent to the SSIS help desk that a user has been removed from the Active Directory when you initiate that on the agency side. You also want to navigate to the user screen and change their role to none. And some agencies to put a user down toward the bottom of the user list, they will put a ZZ in front of their name because everything falls in alphabetical order in that user list. So the inactive users or the users that are no longer at your agency will have ZZ in front of them, so they won't appear right away in a user drop-down list in a lot of the fields in SSIS where you choose a worker or a user. The reason why we cannot completely remove individuals from the SSIS system is because they're attached to work groups, and there's purge rules and work group deletion rules, if you will, added into SSIS that we need to legally keep those individuals attached to those work groups for those reasons. And then the staff detail report in SSIS admin for those who have administer system privileges, you can navigate to the tools and general reports and run a staff detail report at the end of the year just to clear up and pretty up your user log. A lot of times individuals will appear on your user log who have requested statewide case access, or users that are no longer at your agency will appear on that staff detail report as well. So the previous slide where you can move workers to the bottom of the list with the ZZ, that's one recommendation in clearing up this detail report. And also there was something else I wanted to mention in this, and it's escaping me right now. So does one of our panelists want to talk a little bit about this report and any recommendations they might have?
I can just say I always found it helpful to, run this like I would do it either the beginning of the year or the end of, a year, just to kind of check through where everybody's at, make sure I haven't missed, inactivating someone, those kinds of things. So, I think it's nice. They can take a long time if you have a lot of people. So be prepared for that. Like any reports, if you have a lot of data that it's going to run, be prepared. It's going to be one that seems to freeze up because it's taking a while to pull all that.
I do recall what I wanted to say. So individuals will automatically select all when they're running the report, and that's going to delay the processing of this report because it's looking for active users and inactive users. So what you really want to do is you want to run it by department, unit, or worker, and that will return active users of your system at your agency. So it came back to me. All right. So here are a couple of resources. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to the SSIS help desk. And then look up worker documentation. Again, we are definitely wanting to revamp that page and update old job aids. And I know I've been saying that for quite a while. So hopefully now, as the SSIS business operation unit continues to grow, we'll have more and more capacity to offer these resources and create them for you. I want to thank my panelists for being with us today. I want to thank all of you for being with us. And I do want to take the last few minutes here to answer any questions you might have.
Eric,
Yeah.
I was trying to private message Marcia about Carrie's question about the SSIS fiscal online training being outside of TrainLink. And she's wondering if we can do the same thing for our worker-based trainings. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts to that or if that's been talked about going forward, how that will look. Does anybody have any comments to that?
I would start with Eric, yeah, because he
Yeah.
knows those training modules the best.
So I will say that our e-curriculum designer who designed the SSIS Essentials is really taking a deeper look into how they're designed right now and has reached out with a couple of surveys. And I'm not aware of the final results of those surveys yet, but I know he's taking a lot of the feedback into consideration and trying to redesign those essentials to better meet the needs of our new workers out there who take asynchronous, who need to take those asynchronous e-learnings. As far as linking them to the SSIS resource page, I don't know why I didn't think about that until just this very moment, but that's something I can definitely bring up to Jason, who is the one who designs those, to see how he feels about it. I know he uses a different e-learning development tool than the individual who's developing the physical learning, so it might not be possible. But I can definitely check. There's different software that e-curriculum designers use, and they both use two different ones. So I'll check into it though. That's the long answer.
All right. Elena wants to know if this, obviously this has been recorded. Do we have a time length on when this will be posted so they can watch it again?
So Heidi will get the notification of when the recording is available, and she'll send it to me, and then I'll send it to our communications team. I do want to remind people though of where these will be posted. So if you'll allow me to do that really quick. It's going to be on the not the Family First page, but the Minnesota Child Welfare Training Academy SSIS page. So I'm going to navigate there really quick right now. So once you go to minnesotachildwelfaretraining.com, you'll navigate to this More tab. And if you click More, you'll see some visuals. You'll see SSIS Training Unit, Foster Parent College, etc. You'll want to click on the SSIS Training Unit or click on Learn More. And that's where we have archived previous SSIS Mentor Coffee Talks as well as ICWA Coffee Talks. So this coffee talk will fall to the top of this list here. So I'll go ahead and throw that link into the chat for you. And that should be available within a week. I say a week to provide me a cushion of time to get it ready, but sometimes it's posted by the end of the week. Oh, I just sent that to Heidi directly. 1 second. And then before I take the next question, I do want to make mention that we do have a series of SSIS Mentor Coffee Talks lined up for everybody through June of 2022. The next presentation will be at the end of February to coincide the SSIS release of 22.1. There's going to be some new nuggets of information available for you in that, as well as a follow-up on some FFPSA types of things. I believe I've gotten individuals reach out to me from the foster care unit here at DHS who'd like to be a part of that, just to kind of follow up with some of the mentor concerns around FFPSA documentation. In March, we have grids and settings. In April, I believe we're trying to line up some ICWA data entry follow-up conversations. In May, we'll do the 22.2 release information with accompanying material. And in June, we're going to look forward to lining up Title IV-E court action theme for you, and invite policy and other subject matter experts to the table for that conversation. All of these talks are geared toward SSIS and data entry, so I just want you all to be aware of that. The dates will be announced in the next SSIS update. So if you have questions about the dates, I don't have those readily available for you right now, but they will fall on a Tuesday at 9 a.m. That much I can tell you.
Do you have time for another question?
Yeah, let's do one more.
All right. Terry asks if you have an inactivated worker in admin before removing worker from Active Directory, what do you do then?
I'm trying to piece that question. I'm sorry, Terry. If you have inactivated workers in admin before removing the worker from the Active Directory.
Be able to, search that worker up and go in and remove the Active Directory. I don't recall ever having a problem doing it if I did it backwards. I don't think it should cause any issues. You could, I believe you can still do it. Oh, I see she's responding here. It won't let me. Maybe give a call to the help desk or an email to the help desk, Terry, and we can take a look at that.
All right, there is one more question. Someone earlier had commented about moving old service arrangements into another folder. I'm assuming that's so they drop off the physical detail listing so the list isn't so long. How about we do that? Anybody want to address that on the panel?
I'll just say that we have an enhancement request that's being reviewed right now that's actually pretty close to being approved, that is going to actually change some of this process. So I don't really want to go into too much detail because a lot of those inactive service arrangements will be dumped into a new folder automatically. So I'm not sure you want to spend a whole lot of time on doing all that stuff when that will be done, hopefully in the near future. Molly, do you have anything to say about that? I think she's on now.
I'm on, but double muted. Sorry. Nope, you covered it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, everyone, oh, go ahead.
Janice, if you have any questions about that, you can feel free to reach out to the help desk, and that comments or search or questions will get relayed to us.
All right, thanks everybody for being here with us today for our first SSIS Coffee Talk. We look forward to continuing our discussions as we move forward throughout 2022. And we always thank you for the very important work that you do across the state of Minnesota. So we will see you back at the end of February for the second installment in 2022's SSIS Coffee Talk series. Have a great day.